like to call this meeting to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Representative Baker. Representative Blanton. Representative Bowling.
Here.
Representative Bridges. Representative Chester Burton. Representative Dossett. Representative Flannery. Representative Fugate. Representative Hancock.
Here.
Representative Johnson.
Here.
Representative McCool. Representative Miles. Representative Moore.
Here.
Representative Smith. Representative Watkins.
Present.
Representative Wesley. Representative Whitaker. Representative Williams. Vice Chair Bauman. Vice Chair White. And Chair Gooch.
Yes, we do have a quorum, so we are obligated. We can do business. I want to thank the members for coming to this special called meeting. This is actually the earliest meeting that we've had, so we have this room for 30 minutes, and so we're on a strict time schedule, and so we are going to have to be out of here before probably by about 8:50. So with that, we are going to take up Senate Bill 89. Is the chair, the sponsor here? Where's my copy of the amendment? Is it in here? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Introduce yourself and have your guests introduce themselves for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Maiden, Senate District 29.
Clay Larkin, here on behalf of the Kentucky Coal Association.
Take out one. Go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 89 today. One of the reasons I ran for office was to protect our coal miners, our coal communities, and to do everything I could to ensure we burn coal for as long as possible, despite the federal government trying to shut us down. So when I learned of the issues that my constituents and others in the coal industry were experiencing from Kentucky Energy and Environmental Cabinet, I knew something had to be done. But the more I learned, the more I realized this isn't just a coal industry issue. These issues are affecting a wide variety of businesses and job creators across the Commonwealth. That's why Senate Bill 89 is supported by the Home Builders Association of Kentucky, Kentucky County Judge Association, Kentucky Farm Bureau, the Kentucky Coal Association, the American Petroleum Institute, the Kentucky Association for Manufacturers, Associated General Contractors of Kentucky, Associated Builders and Contractors of Indiana and Kentucky, Agribusiness Association of Kentucky, and Americans for Prosperity. Senate Bill 89 addresses two issues in the area of permitting. First, the bill aligns the definition of waters of Commonwealth with the federal definitions of the waters of the United States, providing more clarity and regulatory certainty for Kentucky businesses, home builders, manufacturers, and our farming and coal industry. The effect of this change means that Kentucky cannot regulate more stringent than federal law protecting our job creators from unnecessary government red tape. Second, the bill codifies the definition of long-term treatment, as well as method to calculate the amount of the bonds that are required when long-term treatment of water is occurring at a mine site. This part codifies the same definition and calculation method that has been in place for several years now. Now I want to tell you what this bill does not do with what's being told out on the street. Senate Bill 89 does not leave groundwater without protection from pollution. Groundwater is protected by numerous other provisions of state and federal law. Includes KRS Chapter 151, 223, 349, 350, 353, and the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act's Underground Injection Control Program. Senate Bill 89 does not harm our drinking water. Kentucky's public drinking water systems will still be fully and comprehensively regulated under the Federal Safe Drinking Water Act and existing laws and cabinet regulations related to public water supply, intakes, and private wells. Senate Bill 89 does not remove protection from hazardous substance dumping. It will still be illegal to dump hazardous substances in our water. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank you for helping with the amendment we added.
Yeah, well, we need to do that
Yeah,
first.
I realized that once I got
I
started.
have a committee amendment that I've had drafted, and what it does is it just makes sure that some of the definitions that we talked about are included in waters of the Commonwealth, and it includes navigable waters that's actually defined in the bill, sinkholes with open drains, naturally occurring artisan and phreatic springs, as well as other springs used as a source of domestic water supply. It includes wellhead protection areas. And then the wellhead protection area means it includes all wellhead protection areas as defined in 42 U.S.C. Section 300H-7E as determined by the Cabinet pursuant to the obligations under 42 U.S.C. Section 300H-7A. So with that, I've tried to address some of the concerns that people had that maybe felt the bill was too loose or whatever. And I think you've been aware and you've worked, and the proponents of the bill have worked with me and others. This has brought several other people to the table that was opposed to the bill before. The motion second on the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Representative Flannery, did you have a question or comment? Oh, thank you. Okay, with that, do you have any other?
No, I would just add on that amendment, we work closely with Louisville Water, and I know most of my anti-emails came from the Louisville community, so they had a seat at the table in working on this amendment, so they were satisfied. So
Okay.
I'll be glad to take any questions. If not, I'd move for approval.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on the bill as amended by.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the bill. There are some that have signed up to testify. Now, what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to manage this because there's no way we could have every person that signed up speak. So what we wanna try to do is just have maybe one member of, for different groups or whatever. And okay, with the Kentucky, wait a minute. Who was that at? Okay. Oh, okay. We've got several people from the Hemp Association that have testified, so let's just start, I guess, with Annie Rouse. Annie Rouse, are you here?
I think it's for a different committee.
I'm sorry, what?
She said it was for an idiot committee.
Oh, different committee. Okay, that's fine. Oh, okay. Okay. Anyone from the Hemp Association want to talk about this bill? I was a little surprised, but I have several people that have signed up. So,
Don't stir them up.
okay. All right. Well, that's good. Okay.
Okay. This one at 89 Con, and then that's it. It looks like.
Okay.
Reese True.
Oh, is there Reese True here or Rebecca Shelton?
Yes.
Reese True's here.
Okay. Come forward, please. State your name for the record and.
My name's Reese True.
My name's Rebecca Shelton. I'm the Director of Policy at Appalachian Citizens Law Center.
All right. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Like I said, my name's Reese True. I'm the founder and managing director of the Kentucky Steward. I am an environmental engineer with nearly a decade of experience in geotechnical and water resources engineering, as well as a rural Kentucky farmer. It should be noted that I'm pro-industry, pro-worker, and suffice to say, pro-Kentucky. I'm here not to offer impassioned opinion, but to present objective data that is publicly available and housed on the Kentucky Geological Survey's groundwater data repository. Many of you, I know your emails have been flooded, but the last couple of days I've sent you an environmental report that contains my analysis of over 637,000 groundwater quality data readings spanning 50 years, 1975 to
Probably don't have
2024.
time for that today, but analysis is fine.
Thank you. I guess just to close, what you'll find in that report is that I researched over 100 contaminants and basically discovered an unfortunate correlation between industrial contamination and groundwater used for drinking water or industrial processed water. More or less, that report documents an objective, clear relationship between industrial contamination, groundwater, and characterizes industry-wide, systematic-wide contamination at certain points of carcinogenic contaminants. There's a couple figures in that report that I would urge you to see, specifically figure 7, wherein I document over 19,000 separate instances from 1979 to 2024 of carcinogenic contaminants exceeding their MCLs. So if you-
In Kentucky?
the Kentucky Stewart, yeah, in Kentucky,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
That includes arsenic, lead, PFAS, PCBs, volatile organic compounds, SVOCs, inorganics, pesticides. The list is unfortunately too long. Ultimately, I basically did that analysis not as to discuss contamination as a subject itself, but the fact that the silver lining is we have the data. It's required by law to report and monitor that data. Thankfully, the Kentucky Geological Survey has all of that data. I literally have it all on one Excel sheet right now. It's very easy. It's all publicly available. And I respectfully disagree with some of the comments said earlier with regard to certain industrial corporations and their effluent into the groundwater and that being maintained or protected. That's simply, there should be an asterisk on that statement. I believe others will speak to that standpoint. But as far as the amendment that was referenced just earlier, I think in order to protect Kentucky stakeholders, the specific term groundwater itself needs to be thrown in the bill. And the last closing statement I'll have is redefining waters of the Commonwealth to exclude groundwater, and I mean the term itself, groundwater, not other synonymous terms or anything that would fall under that Venn diagram circle, will not only bring about unprecedented environmental and community health fallout, perhaps beyond remediation, it will redefine Kentucky as a Commonwealth, and it will redefine what it means to be a Kentuckian. Thank you.
Rebecca, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony. As I said, I'm the Director of Policy at Appalachian Citizens Law Center. We're a public interest law firm based in Letcher County. And for many organizations, for many years, our organization has worked on issues related to drinking water. And today, I specifically want to talk to you about the impacts that SB 89 may have on families who rely on private drinking water wells. SB 89 eliminates protections for private drinking water wells. And without these protections, thousands of Kentuckians who rely on these wells may lose access to affordable, clean drinking water. I have a well at my house in Letcher County, but the water contains heavy metals like lead and arsenic, as well as bacteria. When I moved in, I had to make a choice. I either hook up to the public drinking water system or install additional filtration at my home. Neither is affordable. Hooking up the public water to the public water system requires digging a water line to the house, setting a meter, and paying connection fees, and together this can add up to thousands of dollars. I opted instead to install a filter system at my home because I enjoy the independence of having my own well. I was fortunate enough to be able to afford these filters, but they are a substantial cost burden. To initially test my water and install the filters, it cost over $3,000. And annual maintenance of these filters costs anywhere from $600 to $800 a year. So I'm fortunate to have had these choices and the ability to pay for them, yet I know there are still areas of Letcher County that where households do not even have the option of hooking up to the public water system because the lines don't run to their house. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk today about this issue regarding private wells. You know, thousands of families in eastern Kentucky and across the Commonwealth rely on drinking water wells, and I ask that you please vote no on SB 89 today to protect these resources.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Reese or Rebecca? Yes, Mr. Representative White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Briefly, just for those who may not understand the term carcinogenic, can cancer-causing contaminants, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Representative McCool?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, if you were to have contaminants get into the private wells, how difficult or can you clean those up once that happens?
From a private standpoint, it is incredibly difficult, considering the fact that private citizens usually don't have at their disposal environmental remediation experts, as well as federally and state-backed professionals. You would then obviously have to, you're putting the burden basically on private citizens to test that water, which I will just tell you in the industry takes quite a bit of time. If you wanted to drink that water and you were suspicious of contaminants, whether they're carcinogenic or just skin irritants or respiratory irritants, you'd basically have to wait 2 to 3 weeks just to confirm that it's polluted itself. And then as far as your geolocation of that well, it makes it extremely hard if there are groundwater monitoring reporting requirements basically cut from industrial corporations to point source locate that contaminant source. So it would be extremely hard to do that. It's not impossible, but it would be timely and very expensive. And as far as a private stakeholder standpoint, it would almost be insurmountable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Reese and Rebecca. I had a whole list of people signed up, but we found out that most of them want to talk about Senate Bill 202. I think that's the next meeting that's here. So any of you who signed up to talk about 202, once this meeting is over, you probably want to sign up again in order to be able to be heard in that next committee meeting. So with that, I only have 2 other people. I have a hard time with the name and the writing, more or less. Is it Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nick and Audrey.
Audrey.
Yes, Audrey Insberger. We've probably got 5 minutes total, so. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the record and who you represent, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Nick Hart. I am the Water Policy Director for Kentucky Waterways Alliance. And I wanted to take this opportunity to urge the committee to preserve the definition of waters of the Commonwealth as it stands. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to request this committee direct the LRC to perform a full statutory review of the impacts of SB 89 as well as an economic impact analysis. The reason I ask that is because KRS 224.16-050 as well as 401 KAR 5:055 already bring Kentucky's Clean Water Act in line with the federal Clean Water Act. And in fact, those provisions provide that no limit, requirement, or condition shall be more stringent than the federal government, and also says that no permit to discharge shall be issued that would also not be issued by the federal government. So I ask this committee, if Kentucky is already aligned with the Clean Water Act as the federal government would implement it, what is the goal for changing the definition of waters of the Commonwealth? And I will say briefly, the definition is a jurisdictional definition. It allows Kentucky the right to define what the geographic features are in our state. That's a right just like defining what our borders are. Kentucky even has a definition for grass. And I would urge this committee not to give up that state right. In fact, the Supreme Court in the Sackett decision, which has been discussed during this bill, said themselves that that is one of the core traditional rights of a state is to determine how it uses its water. Now, I will say that not all that water needs to be under a regulatory program like the Clean Water Act, but I would urge you, please do not give up this state right to determine what those geographic features are, especially in a time when we are trying to say, when it's said that the federal government is overreaching. I don't understand why we would give that definition to the federal government to define. So again, I would like to urge you, please maintain the definition of waters of the Commonwealth. Please perform a statutory review to determine what the impacts of it will be. Please conduct an economic impact analysis to determine how it's going to affect the residents and the communities here in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your suggestion. Of course, this legislative body does have the responsibility to establish public policy. And one of the laws that we have currently on the books says that our regulations can't be more stringent than the federal government. And I think that if we are able to do a study, we also ought to look to see whether or not we are not violating that provision of state law that the cabinet is operating in excess or more stringent than federal law. Aubrey, you got about 3 minutes. Audrey?
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Audrey Ernstberger. I'm with Kentucky Resources Council, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify in opposition of SB 89 today. First, I'd like to start by saying that all of Kentucky's waters deserve the continued protections that they have had for decades under our state laws, which this bill strips away. This amendment that has been offered does nothing to alleviate the devastating consequences that SB 89 will have on water resources that Kentuckians rely on for drinking water, recreation, fishing, watering livestock, and crop irrigation. It leaves most groundwater and 89,000 domestic use and agricultural wells unprotected from pollution, impacting rural Kentuckians most directly. This bill, as you've heard, with its narrow exceptions, limits protections against pollution to only those waters that are defined as navigable under the Federal Clean Water Act. This definition fails to cover tens of thousands of miles of water across the Commonwealth that are critical for the health of Kentuckians. The water impacted by this bill includes karst aquifers and other vital groundwater resources, since they are not regulated under the Clean Water Act, nor proactively regulated under the Safe Drinking Water Act. It also removes protections for ephemeral streams, those that flow in response to rainwater or snowmelt, which mitigate floodwaters and are crucial to the health of our river systems. About 65% of our streams and rivers are ephemeral or intermittent, and 3 million people receive drinking water from public water systems that rely, at least in part, on streams that will lose protection under these bills. Allowing unregulated pollution into the streams will lower water quality downstream. It will still increase the cost of our drinking water systems and impact downstream dischargers who will now need to account with additional pollution controls. SB 89 also excludes off-stream ponds, reservoirs, and headwaters. To say that none of these water resources require the same level of protection as our rivers and lakes is not just irresponsible, this is dangerous. SB 89's new definition of waters of the Commonwealth will completely ignore the reality of Kentucky's geography. Sinkholes are not a water resource, yet they are included in this amended definition, while the crucial karst aquifers that supply drinking water to so many rural Kentuckians are left unprotected. This bill does not safeguard these karst underground water systems that are particularly vulnerable to contamination. Karst aquifers are fragile, but they are a vital water source in Kentucky, and their exclusion from this bill shows a misunderstanding and lack of appreciation for our state's unique water system. The amendment's addition of wellhead protection areas may help in some cities that rely on groundwater for public drinking water, but it does not do anything for the tens of thousands of homes, farms, and businesses in rural Kentucky that rely on groundwater from private wells. It fails to protect wells in fracture flow dominated groundwater aquifers in eastern Kentucky, alluvion wells across the state, and countless others that are absolutely vital to the lives of Kentuckians. SB 89 exposes rural communities to pollution risks that could devastate local economies and health. It also will substantially weaken our waste disposal laws and will remove protections for groundwater and hazardous substance spills and cleanup efforts. If our environment under our state hazardous spill response law no longer includes groundwater or headwater streams, because they've been written out of waters of their Commonwealth, there will be no accountability when these waters are contaminated. No action and limited cleanup. SB 89 is a free pass for pollution and a betrayal to Kentucky's most precious resource, its water. This bill's failure to address these concerns is not an oversight. This is a deliberate choice to cater to the interest of a few at the expense of a many.
Audrey, we don't really have a lot of time for hyperbole.
Let me just wrap up.
Okay, thank you.
We cannot afford to gut our protections. Kentuckians literally cannot afford the price of increased water treatment. This bill is an affront to everyone in Kentucky who depends on clean, safe water to live, work, and thrive in the state. Please vote no. Kentucky deserves better.
Thank you. And I do apologize. Thank you. I do apologize for not, for the limited time, but you and I had lots of conversations about this up until this, and I'm sure many other community members has as well. With that, we have a motion and a second on the bill. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Representative Baker. Representative Ballman.
Aye.
Representative Blanton.
Aye.
Representative Bowling.
Yes.
Representative Bridges.
Yes.
Representative Chester Burton. Representative Dossett.
Yes.
Representative Flannery.
Aye.
Representative Fugate.
Yes.
Representative Hancock.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can I explain my no vote?
Yes.
I appreciate the fact that the sponsor said that he ran on protecting the coal industry. I ran on protecting Kentuckians and Kentucky families. I'm proud to vote no. Thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Could I explain my vote, Mr.
1
Chairman?
minute.
Thank you. Listen, I appreciate what you brought forth today. I certainly appreciate what efforts in trying to help with the coal industry. I'm a former coal miner, and certainly farming and all that's very important. My concern is I just cannot take a risk of hurting the water system when I'm dealing already with public water, and we can't get that taken care of, and we're talking about private wells. I'm just not confident that that has been taken care of, so I'm gonna be a no.
Representative Miles.
May I explain my vote?
Yes. 1 minute.
I would like to record a yes vote for the bill, but I also want to appreciate the sponsor and the bill, the chairman, and also we've had multiple people that have contributed to the amendment to address this, and I think it's very important for all of us to recognize we all want clean water, and that is the intent of amending and just reassuring that we've protected the water. Thank you.
Representative Moore.
Permission to explain my vote?
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish we had more time. We didn't even get into the agricultural impacts of this. I grew up on farmland, and I don't know how this impacts our livestock. I don't know how this impacts our crops. And I don't want to say that I'm going to give a vote to seeing the next Flint, Michigan being located here in the Commonwealth. I'm a no vote today.
Representative Smith.
I'll explain my vote, Mr. Chairman. It's very simple. In my world that I live in with my constituents, with my businesses and farmers and contractors, and this is our government is reactionary a lot of times, but this is important because of the 4 or 5 years it takes to make a decision. This is important because our farmers do need to be protected. They don't need to be punished because we've had a hard rain and there's water that's settled for 30 days and EPA decides to write them up. There's two sides of this. I understand. I live in the mountains. We have well waters in my area. This is right here is an important bill. If you want it for discussion, we'll talk about it again this summer. We always come back and deal with these things as they progress, but I'm a yes vote, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Watkins.
Briefly explain my vote.
1 minute.
I had the luxury of drinking out of this wonderful water that was provided for us. And somebody purchased it. There are folks in our state that don't have the ability to do that. With respect to the sponsor, which I appreciate industry concerns, I understand that industries are job creators, but people are profit creators, and you will not have money, you will not have business if people don't support it. I am an emphatic no on this.
Representative Wesley. Representative Whitaker.
Yes.
Representative White. Representative Williams.
Yes.
And Chair Gooch.
Yes. Okay, the bill does pass with favorable expression, the same should pass. Now, let me say one thing. Often when we have a bill and there's an amendment, we'll offer a committee sub, but generally that committee sub includes the entire language with whatever we're amending in the sub, and it's very harder to understand. I did a committee amendment today so that there was no question that what we were discussing was listed in the amendment. I think it's cleaner, and that's what I did. But what I would like to do at this time is to ask someone to make a motion to roll it into a committee sub.
Motion to roll the committee amendment into Senate Bill 89.
The bill as amended into a committee sub. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like I said?